If you are settled and prepared, we would love it if you would rise in body or spirit and join us in our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. And if you would like to use your noisemakers now, I'm not going to stop you.
History speaks, but are we listening to what they have to share? A history of people, events, and places deemed as essential and worthy of knowing is taught to children, youth, and people of all ages. History speaks of multiple accounts, and there are many sides to every story told. Every story lived or read, yet a single story is often the one that is made known. A single story. Speaking of stories, who knows what the books like The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, I Am Jazz, Jacob's New Dress, The Prince and the Knight, and Tango Makes Three all have in common? Anyone? Shout it out if you know.
They're all banned.
They are all banned books for younger kids because many of them have queer characters. Can you imagine what makes a story known? How it could be so harmful to have these books banned? What will it do? Will not hear. Come, beloveds. Come gather around in this place of love and care. Will not a book nor a person is banned. Will all of you is sacred. Will all of you is welcome. Come, beloveds, come. Let us worship joyfully together.
Hi. Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, the minister of this church. and I still can't believe that this is my job. It is so good to be with you this morning. I am so glad to be with you. If you're with us on the internet or if you're sitting in the chairs around me, we are one community, united in our commitment to each other and our commitment to live out our principles in this world. I'm so happy to offer a special welcome to Roddy Bell Shelton. Roddy is currently attending Meadville Lombard Seminary, studying to become a Unitarian Universalist minister. Part of that journey to ministry has led them here to the Tri-Cities, where they will be doing a summer chaplaincy internship at Johnson City Medical Center. When I knew Roddy was going to be in the area, I could not resist the opportunity to invite them to join us today, the very first Sunday of Pride Month. Today, we are going to look at what history has to tell us, and we give history a voice. We're going to look at how picking and choosing which of our stories of our history to tell is almost inevitable. And we're going to look at how that process of discernment affects our children and the future culture that they will create. And this isn't just about banned books, but taking a look at which books are banned does give us a unique insight into which stories are told and which stories are silenced. We here speak the voices that may not be heard otherwise. So today we are loudly proud and loudly aware of the diversity within our history, our present, and our future. We want history to speak loudly, but we don't want your cell phones to do the same. So we ask that we begin the day by making sure that our cell phones are silenced. Also, as a way to care for our community, please be mindful of the variety of interaction levels preferred by the people in our community here, indicated by red, yellow, and green wristbands. We begin with the chalice lighting that connects us with our Unitarian Universalist history.
Our chalice is a reminder that in hard times, our ancestors in faith acted with courage to bring hope and safety, to bring life itself to threatened people. We light it today as a reminder of whom we are called to be in a world still dangerous and despairing. With courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us. Good morning. I'm Bradley, your service leader here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. We welcome you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, we are stronger because of your presence. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, many sexualities, many genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcomed here. Today's story, for all ages, comes from a book that has been banned from a public library in West Virginia and a public school in Virginia, written by award-winning author Daniel Hack.
A banned book? How scandalous. What was it banned for?
That's a good question. Let's read the book and find out.
That sounds a little risky, but okay.
Once upon a time, in a kingdom far from here, lived a charming prince who was handsome and sincere.
A prince who's handsome and sincere? I like it already.
Okay, Roddy, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, but I do have a story to tell.
Sorry, Reverend Tiffany. Go ahead.
His parents knew that soon it would be time he took the throne, but a kingdom so grand couldn't have a prince rule alone. So the three of them set out and traveled far and wide on a quest to find the prince a kind and worthy bride. The prince met many ladies, and he made them all swoon. But it was soon clear that he was singing a different tune.
Thank you.
He told his parents.
I appreciate that you tried. But I'm looking for something different in a partner by my side.
But while the royals were away, their land faced quite a scare from a dragon fast approaching, breathing fire everywhere.
And the villagers ran in fear, even soldiers hid and fled.
This vicious beast is far too great. We must retreat or we'll be dead.
The prince heard the dreadful news and raced home with all his might to protect his precious realm. The prince was ready for a fight. Alas, before you fear, our prince had not to face the beast alone. Along on horseback came a knight, cloaked in armor that brightly shone.
The dragon charged upon our heroes, thinking it had already won. But the knight had a bold idea and raised his shield to face the sun. The glare hit the shining metal, blinding the dragon's fiery eyes. But it was what the prince did next that really caught it by surprise.
The prince had climbed atop the dragon and tied a rope around its head. He wrapped the cord around the neck and down the body like a thread. The plan had worked. The dragon was caught, its body tied and bound. But the prince high up had lost his grip and was falling to the ground.
The knight below jumped on his horse and they began to race. The prince was caught and free from harm, held in the knight's embrace.
You saved my life,
And you saved mine.
they said to one another.
And in a flash, to each it felt there simply was no other.
The knight took off his helmet to reveal his handsome face. And as they gazed in each other's eyes, their hearts began to race.
As the villagers returned, it became clear to those around that the prince's one true love had at last been surely found.
The king and queen had come back too, and were overwhelmed with joy.
We have finally found someone who is perfect for our boy.
And so on the two men's wedding's day, the air was filled with cheer and laughter.
For the prince and his shining knight would live happily ever after.
That's it? Really? Why would that be banned?
Well, Roddy, from the research I did, it looks like it was banned because two guys fell in love. I was gonna share the objections that were made, but honestly, it is too hurtful to repeat what they said.
We still have so much work to do, don't we? Did you know that today's the first Sunday of June? It's also the first Sunday of Pride Month, a month-long celebration promoting the self-affirmation, dignity, equality, and increased visibility of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. This visibility of queer relationships in the book, like The Prince and the Knight, should be celebrated, not banned. Our Unitarian Universalist values call us to support LGBTQ communities. As Unitarian Universalists, we not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. We create inclusive religious communities that work for LGBTQ justice and equity as a core part of who we are. All of you is sacred. All of you is welcome.
The stories that we choose really do matter. Thanks for helping me with the story today, Roddy. I hear that Karis recruited you to help with the musical offering too.
This week is actually going to be a rhythm poetry offering. And we'd like to invite everyone to join in. Many of you received noisemakers as you came in this morning. There will be a moment where you'll hear drums. At those moments, we invite you to make as much noise as you can. If you don't have a noisemaker, use your voice. Or your hands, or stomp your feet. Whatever it is to make that noise. And we would love to hear the rhythm of young people as well. So I'm seeing some children and youth that have instruments at any time chime in. National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman's book, Change Sings, is much of a song as it is a poem. And when we get into the groove of things as a group, we enjoy the way that it's truly meant to be experienced. I can hear change coming in its loudest, proudest song. I don't feel change coming, and so I sing along. I scream with the skies of red and blue streamers. I dream the dream of tried and true dreamers. I'm a chant that rises and rings. There is hope where my change sings. Though some don't understand it, those windmills of mystery, I sing with all the planets and its hills of history. I hum with 100 hearts, each lifting a hand. I use my strengths and my smarts to take a knee and make a stand. I am bright as light that each day brings. There is love where my change sings. I show others tolerance, though at times it might take courage. I don't make taller fences, but build better bridges. I not only talk of distances from where and how we came, I also walk our differences to show we are the same. I am a movement that roars and springs. There is a wave where my change sings. Change things? Where? There, inside of me, because I am the change I want to see. As it grows, as I grow, it grows like seeds. I'm just what the world needs. I'm the voice where freedom rings. You're the love your bright heart brings. We are the waves stirring to spring, for we are the change we sing. We're what the world is becoming, and we know it won't be long. We will all hear change strumming. Won't you sing along?
Thank you, Roddy, for stirring us up today. Today, the first Sunday in June, is a lot of things, and it is also the first Sunday that our newly elected board is in place. And I would like to invite you to join me in thanking our board members who have completed their time of service and commissioning our board for the 2002-2003 church year. There is an insert in your bulletin that will give you a few words to say when it's the right time. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, a commissioning is the act of granting certain powers or authority to carry out a particular task or duty. In many churches, there is a common misconception that the leaders of the church run things, that the board has all sorts of power to get things done, and that everyone else essentially just coasts along following the direction that the leaders have set. Some people even think that the minister has this kind of authority. But that's not how it works in Unitarian Universalist churches. We are a congregationally based tradition. All power in Unitarian Universalist churches comes up through the congregation and is bestowed upon the leaders, including the ordained leaders, to carry out specific services for the good of the whole. Today, then, we take this reality seriously and formally bestow upon our elected leaders the authority they need to carry out the work we have assigned them. This commissioning service is an opportunity to give our blessing to these ministries these leaders will provide in the coming year and affirm their sense of calling to the roles and the services that they claim. To be sure, it takes more than board leadership to help a congregation thrive, and so many of you do so much. Today cannot be a day to recognize all who have contributed here. But instead today we seek to affirm those who have been set apart through election at our annual meeting, those who have taken upon themselves the institutionally recognized role of board leadership. Not all of our departing board members could be with us today in person, but we want to say their names and express our thanks nonetheless. If you're here and you hear your name called, please stand. We offer our thanks for years of service for board leadership to Dana, Greg, and Ann L. Thank you for representing all of them. Your leadership has brought us through some unusually challenging times, and we thank you for your service. Church family, please express your thanks with the words in your bulletin. We thank you for your willingness to take on the responsibilities of leadership in our community. We thank you for your vision, your efforts, and the way you brought yourselves to our shared work. Thank you once again. Our incoming leaders need our blessing if they are going to do what we have asked them to do. They need our affirmation. They need our support. They need to be reminded to take care of themselves, for they are no different than the rest of us. Yet they have entered into the ministries of leadership for all of our sakes. Not all of our incoming board members could be with us today in person. Some are taking that self-care charge seriously today, but we want to commission their work nonetheless. If you're here and hear your name called, please stand. Ann J., Dottie, David, Deb, Michelle, Doug, Cynthia, Brian, and Charlie. Members of the board, this congregation charges you to be guided in your work by our vision, our covenant, and our principles. We charge you with keeping sight of the big picture, with holding our vision, honoring our past, and guiding us toward our future. Are you ready and willing to accept this charge? We are. Do you, the members and friends of this congregation, affirm these elected leaders as volunteers who need your support, your participation, and your appreciation, as well as your caring and concern? We do. Grateful for your willingness to take on the responsibilities of leadership in our community. We affirm your calling and vow to support your ministries of leadership in every way we can. We encourage you to take care of yourselves as you take care of us, and to remember that you are part of this community even while you lead us. And board members, if you will reply with what is printed in the bulletin.
We thank you for your faithfulness and vow to do our best to live up to the charge you have given us. We promise also to remember that the ultimate responsibility of our church lies with all of us, for this is our home, our community. May we all do what we can to make your home proud.
Thank you, board member, and thank you, congregation. You may be seated. Yes. Sometimes we are here to give, whether as a board member, a teacher, a committee member, or a playground builder. Sometimes we're here to receive as we share our joys and sorrows. Both are important. Our relationships with this community are at their best when they are reciprocal. And so we bring all that we are to this community. If you'd like to share a joy or concern in person, use these candle cards, which can be located right here. Or if you'd like to share a joy or concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuuc.org. There's a box in the back that you can fill your cards out and submit your joys and concerns. A special concern that a lot of you all may share is that our TV has been on the fritz on and off this week and prior weeks. I want you all to know that we are doing our best. We're experimenting with fixes. We experimented with one fix today, and it's working now. It wasn't working so good earlier, but the good news for you is that all of these hymn lyrics are in the hymnals that are in your seats or under your seats, and that the hymn numbers are printed in your bulletin, and we're trying to say those out loud as well. So if the TV screens let us down, we can still soldier on. I have a joy from Doug and Kim. We appreciate the plaque recently awarded to us for social justice leadership. Thank you for your recognition, and more importantly, thank you for your ongoing support of social justice initiatives here and in our community. You took us completely by surprise, and it has been an honor to work alongside so many of you who share our passion of caring for people and our planet. Doug and Kim. If you want a candle to be lit for yourself, a loved one, or a situation close to your heart, please make that request known by standing or raising your hand. And we light our first candle for you who are not in the building, but are ever in our hearts and minds. unspoken in our hearts and minds.
Our reading is an excerpt from the afterword of A People's History of the United States. This book has been banned from a New Jersey high school and a multitude of Tucson, Arizona schools. It has also been targeted by legislation in Arkansas and Indiana. The reasons for issuing the ban are generally said for it to be providing a biased account. In his afterword, author Howard Zinn describes his struggles with deciding what history to include and what to not include in his 600-page book. By the time I began teaching and writing, I had no illusions about objectivity, if that meant avoiding a point of view. I knew that a historian or a journalist or anyone telling a story was forced to choose out of an infinite number of facts what to present, what to omit. And that decision inevitably would reflect, whether consciously or not, the interests of the historian. There's no such thing as pure fact, innocent of interpretation. Behind every fact presented to the world by a teacher, by a writer, by anyone, is a judgment. The judgment that has been made is that this fact is important and that other facts, omitted, are not important. There were themes of profound importance to me which I found missing in the Orthodox histories that dominated American culture. The consequence of those omissions has been not simply to give a distorted view of the past, but more importantly, to mislead us all about the present.
Thank you, Bradley, for those words from Howard Zinn. I'm not a historian, but I am a storyteller of sorts. And I can really appreciate the dilemma of being forced to choose out of an infinite number of stories and pieces of information what to present and what to omit. Zinn says he struggled to do it in 600 pages, and he has many critics that don't appreciate what he chose to include and exclude. Fortunately for me, I don't have to tell the entire history of our nation today. And fortunately for you, I'm not going to try to do anything in 600 pages. Instead, every week, I try to say something meaningful about who we are as humans and who we are as Unitarian Universalists in 1,500 to 1,800 words. I've been told I can go longer if it's really compelling, but for me, that would be all the time. So I try, because of course it's compelling to me. So I'm going to try to keep it 1,500 to 1,800 words. And this process of prioritizing, of deciding what stories to tell, is a really tough one. And that is the focal point of today. The stories we tell matter. Which ones will we choose? I know a lot has changed in our public schools since I was a classroom student. I also know that history was one of my least favorite subjects in high school, but was one of my absolutely favorite subjects in college. What changed? What switch was flipped for me between high school and college? Well, part of it was subject matter. The world civilizations class that I took my first semester in college opened me up to new worlds that I hadn't heard about since elementary school, because Asia, Africa, and Latin America just had not been prioritized. And part of it was the approach, too. We went deeper into many subjects. We weren't just taught the facts of history, but also learned how those facts were gathered and presented and how to think critically about them. To use the words of a teacher friend of mine, in elementary, middle, and high school, we dig a lot of shallow holes into our historical record. Not because we don't want to go deeper, but because we just don't have time. There's so much to cover. Lots of shallow holes are often all that can be done until higher education comes along and invites us to go deeper into the areas that are calling to us personally. And the deeper areas that are calling to us as we get older are largely influenced by which shallow holes we dig during those first 13 years of our public education. How else would we know what we want to go deeper into if we haven't been exposed to it at all? What we learn then and what we continue to learn about once we are the self-motivated students of the world will matter deeply for our future. The foundations we lay are what we build that future upon. Will we become the best future we can if the only time that we hear about Africa is in the history of colonization and the slave trade, which is how the Tennessee state standards are set? I had the most amazing conversation with Mike Frisch a few months ago where he showed me the African astronomy class that he taught at the Langston Center. The scientific advancements that came out of Africa and continue to come out of Africa are astounding. When I hear about teaching and learning these subjects, I think that it's more than just cool and interesting. I think it's an essential perspective that we're missing. Every kid in our country, of every color, needs to know that civilization has come from more places than just Europe, and that Europe's Renaissance was catalyzed by the scientific and mathematical advancements in Africa and the Middle East. The consequences of not sharing these stories are significant. At a school less than an hour from here, there is a lawsuit taking place because of racially based harassment that was left unchecked by the administration. I scoured the news for examples in this case that wouldn't be too traumatizing to share here, and I couldn't find any. The behavior is that bad. It is that dehumanizing. And I'm not saying that teaching a broader view of history would fix all of that, but I do think it'd be a step in the right direction. Another step is to allow ourselves to teach uncomfortable history. A lot of banned books connected to the Holocaust, for example, like the graphic novel Mouse, are banned because the topic matter is seen as too sensitive or too traumatizing. And I don't want any of our kids to be traumatized by what they learn. The discernment process over what is age appropriate is a really important one to engage in. But I do want our kids to be uncomfortable sometimes. Really, I want our kids to be uncomfortable. And I'm so hardwired to avoid discomfort that I'm even uncomfortable saying that. Teaching uncomfortable topics is hard. It's hard for teachers and the students and the parents. And I bet it's especially hard for the teachers hearing back from the parents when their kids are upset by some uncomfortable truth that they've heard in school. And yet, discomfort is where learning happens. I think about all the watershed moments in my own life, and they were all characterized by discomfort. I still remember learning about slavery for the first time in the 4th grade and feeling awful, and I'm still glad I did it. It was a moment of disillusionment, but it was also an invitation to see the worth and dignity of all people and how we have fallen short It was a chance to realize why our values of justice, equity, and compassion are something that we say out loud as often as possible. How to approach that discomfort within yourself or with your beloved children is a delicate thing, and it's even harder when you're that teacher, that parent, that minister or mentor inviting the people that you care about to be uncomfortable. My mentor had a great visual aid for that, and I'm going to see if I can pull it out. Yep, there they are. Rubber bands. My mentor once used a rubber band to talk to me about the give and take of approaching uncomfortable subjects. She took the rubber band in her hand and stretched it. And she said, "Look at how I stretch it. Look at how much capacity we have to stretch to go from there to here." And when you're made just the right amount of uncomfortable, this is sometimes what it feels like. When you stop stretching the rubber band, which is something we all must do, taking breathers and breaks for the sake of self-care and reflection in the midst of our growth, then the rubber band is able to relax the tension. But it is slightly bigger than when the stretching process began. Its comfort zone, its capacity is naturally bigger because of the process of that stretching. Then she grabbed another rubber band and pulled it hard and fast, as rough as she could, and it snapped. We don't want to snap our kids, and we don't want to snap ourselves. So introducing the comfort as we go in just the right amounts and providing care and time for processing is an art, one that we're all still learning through trial and error. I don't want to snap anyone here, and I definitely don't want to snap our kids. And I know that the consequences of avoiding discomfort at all costs is dire. We won't grow if we don't let ourselves be uncomfortable. And the right kind of history will make us uncomfortable sometimes. Henry David Thoreau made that point really well in his essay on civil disobedience when he reminded his critics that it is because he loves his country that he criticizes it, wanting them to do better at living up to their Declaration of Human Rights. Our courage to sit in the uncomfortable places matters because how people are educated has everything to do with who they will become. This isn't just a matter for parents and teachers to be concerned about, but it's a matter of concern for anyone who wants a future for our humanity and for this world. How we teach the past will dramatically affect our future, and we want a future where there's justice, peace, and equity. We want a future where the beloved community thrives. It appears that in order to build the future, our community here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church may have to tell some stories that don't get told at school. Our teachers probably have the hardest job in the world, and honestly, with everything going on right now, it's even harder. So we're going to chip in. We're going to do our part too. Roddy reminded us in our call to worship that books aren't banned here in this place, and neither are people. Yes, I do want schools to tell a broader story for all of our kids, stories where they get to see themselves as heroes rather than as side characters. And I know that families and communities like ours will always be tasked to fill out the rest of the stories, to go broader and deeper than they can ever go at school and teach our unique values here. That's why I'm so glad that this fall's religious education program is going to focus on age-appropriate banned books, books like Prince and Knight that we heard today. And that's why I would like to invite all of you to give a banned book a try on your own. There's this radical and subversive group called the American Library Association. They can help you out with their list if you need to know where to get started, if you're not ready for a 600-page People's History of the United States. When I look back at what I learned during my time in school, the biggest takeaway was something that one of my 6th grade teachers taught me. He said that there's so much to learn in the world that there's no way that he or his colleagues could teach me everything that I needed to know for life. So he wasn't even going to try to fill my head with every single fact that I would need to know. Instead, he taught me how to learn so that in time I could become my own teacher. And those lessons about how to think critically, how to express myself, and how to find the information I needed from reliable sources became the most important lessons. So that now, when history speaks, I can listen, and I can do my part to speak up when voices are silenced.
You did a good job today, Tiffany. You did a good job. Let's extinguish the chalice. Through our temporary lives, the great currents of history run. Let us keep the channels open and free, so not to obstruct purposes greater than our own. Let us keep our minds set upon the high goals that are here to bind us into one sharing fellowship of loving hearts. We thank you for being with us today. We hope that you are giving some thought to how you want to be part of this community that works together. We hope that you'll linger after the service and join us for coffee hour. You can find coffee and cookies that way, that direction. If today's topic has intrigued you or fired you up, you might be interested in joining the religious education team this fall. Some classes will be engaging with age-appropriate banned books and processing their encounters with these books through maker spaces. Others will be doing Our Whole Lives comprehensive sexuality education, and others will be examining how social justice concepts connect to our principles. We're still looking for a few good teachers and assistants, so contact Sarah at dre@hvууc.org if you're interested. There's a new brochure out for religious education that you can find by the greeters table. Take one for your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, anyone who might want to look at it. I want to thank Roddy today for dropping by and sharing their talents with us today. When Roddy's doing their hospital chaplain internship in July and August, they would really appreciate a room to crash or a couch to crash on so that they're not driving back and forth from the hospital to their place in Knoxville every day. Even if you can only offer like a week, those weeks of home hospitality can add up. Roddy will be lingering for coffee and cookies after the service, so talk to them if you have the ability to help out in this way.
I think you missed a page.
Did I miss a page?
Yeah.
I did miss a page. Back up. Speaking of kids, we are human. And this isn't Hollywood. Speaking of kids, we have a new playground. Back that way. You walk to the Fred Ballroom, you get your coffee, you get your cookies, and then you go down to the porch playground. We would love for our families to enjoy that area safely, and part of that safety means that we are asking you to make sure that your kids are supervised while they're on the playground. This Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., we will have a playground work day. You can find more information online or by asking Doug. Doug, are you here? Doug's over there. He's wearing a gray shirt with a Tennessee logo. I'll introduce you if you haven't met. All friends and family are invited to join us for a religious education registration pizza party after services next Sunday. And at that same time, next week, our DC bus riders will also be eating pizza, making posters, and tie-dyeing shirts in preparation for their trip to Washington, D.C. You can learn more about the many opportunities for fellowship, justice work, and working together by visiting our website, hvuuc.org, and checking out our news and events section. And Tiffany takes over.
It's not Hollywood, and I'm glad for that. And I thank you all for being here with us today. It's a real gift to have you with us, and I hope you'll come join us next week for a topic that's going to be fun for the whole family. Next Sunday's sermon is inspired by Disney's Encanto and Pixar's Turning Red, and there might be spoilers. So if you get a chance to watch either or both of these animated movies during this coming week, I would encourage it. I mean, it's summer. Maybe you'll want to get crazy and host a little watch party at your house or something like that. Bradley was already good enough to let you all know that Roddy's looking for some home hospitality this summer. He expects to be here Monday through Thursday every week, and one of those weeks he's going to be house sitting for me, but many hands make light work, so please see them after the service. Some time ago, author John Green presented a crash course in world history on YouTube. One commenter asked, "Will there be a test?" And this was his reply. "Oh yeah, about that test. The test will measure whether you're an informed, engaged, and productive citizen of this world, and it will take place in schools and bars and hospitals and dorm rooms and in places of worship. You will be tested on first dates, in job interviews, while watching football, and while scrolling through your Twitter feed. The test will judge your ability to think about things other than celebrity marriages, whether you'll be easily persuaded by empty political rhetoric, and whether you'll be able to place your life and your community in a broader context. The test will last your entire life, and it will be comprised of the millions of decisions that, when taken together, will make your life yours. And everything will be on it."